Today, I just want to talk about my surgery. I had a life-changing surgery a little over a year ago, and there was a lot leading up to that decision and going through it, and a whole lot of recovery afterwards. And I'm sitting here after my third revision surgery and just feeling like I wanted to share that story with you guys. So, welcome to the episode on my tummy tuck.
I'm Dr. Williams, and this is my podcast. I have 2 graduate degrees in psychology, am a licensed mental health counselor, and an expert in the area of spirituality. I am devoted to living my best life and am sharing it with all of you. I'm bringing my expertise, education, and life experiences to you through this podcast. Everyone deserves to enjoy life, and that is what I'm here to talk about. Depression, anxiety, grief, you name it, we all go through it at one time or another. I believe there's a better way to come at these things than mainstream mental health care offers, and I'm here to offer you my perspective and dig into discovering how you can feel good no matter what life throws at you. It is my intention to contribute goodness to this world, and the content herein is how I do that. But one disclaimer before we dive in: should you decide to apply the information offered here, be prepared for improvements in your life. You may even live happily ever after, and you'll only have yourself to thank. This is Feel Good Now, the Dr. Williams podcast.
I want to start with talking about my surgery. Now, this surgery is the hardest thing I have lived through in this life. It was difficult. And if you've listened to my episode on postpartum anxiety, that was a very difficult thing that I've been through. The birth of my second son was very difficult. The pregnancy was difficult. I've been through some things, some pretty strong contrast in my life. But this surgery took me to my limit physically. I honestly had no idea what I was in for recovery with this kind of surgery. And I remember when I came out of the anesthesia, I was still feeling kind of okay, but the medicine was still in my body. And I thought, all I want to do is go to sleep. And all I wanted to do was get back to the hotel room. My mom and I had gotten a room across the street from my doctor's office. And all I wanted to do was get into that bed and go back to sleep. So feeling the sleepiness was my initial reaction to my very first awake moment after surgery. Soon after that, when the pain set in, I don't even know how to really explain it, because it was unlike anything I had ever experienced that I remember. And it was bad. It was bad, really bad. And I had a cough. I had been sick for weeks leading up to my surgery date. So every time I coughed, I felt like my body was breaking in half at my abdomen, and it was awful. I would tell my mom, I'm going to cough, and she would hurry up and give me a cough drop and give me water to drink to try to get that menthol back into the back of my throat so that it would suppress the cough before it happened. It was awful. I don't know how to put it any other way. It was terrible. And I had done some research leading up to the surgery, and I kind of knew that it was going to be a painful thing. I had never had any other surgery before this one, and I knew that I was embracing that pain, right? I knew the recovery would be difficult, but I was embracing it because I wanted the results. That was the most important thing to me. Going back into understanding what got me up to this point, I've always been a fairly slim body type. In high school, I was 100 pounds, and my stomach was always an attractive attribute of mine. I could wear short tops, and I had a curved waist, and it was something that I felt confident about. Going into my first pregnancy, I had really high hopes that my body would not change too much postpartum, that I would be able to get back into shape, and that I wouldn't have stretch marks and all the things that women hope for after having a baby. My mom, she didn't have stretch marks in either of her pregnancies, so I kind of was going based on that. And actually, that is what happened. After my first son, I was able to get back into shape. My abs closed back up in the way that they were before I was pregnant. I did not have stretch marks. I got back into my clothes. Everything was good. And so I assumed that with my second pregnancy, I would experience something similar. But that wasn't the case. My second son was an entirely different experience. And it's very fitting because both of my kids are very different. I have one that's blonde-haired, one that's dark-haired. I have one that likes to be outside and one that likes to be inside. They are really just like night and day in every way. So it would make sense that everything about them would be different, including my pregnancies and their birth and the postpartum period. So my first son weighed 7 pounds and 14 ounces when he was born, and that's an average weight for a baby. But my second son was gigantic. He weighed 11 pounds, 5 ounces at birth, and my body stretched out tremendously. I looked like I was carrying twins, even though I only had one baby in there. Several people had commented that I looked like I was carrying twins, and I did. I really did. Well, my body did not go back into shape after giving birth to him. And I had something that's called diastasis recti. That's when your abdominal muscles separate, and mine separated more in the middle where my belly button was, and they stayed that way. They stayed separated. And I actually went to a physical therapist to try to work at getting the muscles to come back together. And I got some progress, but they never did come all the way back together. So at that point, I had this pooch in my stomach, and it was loose skin in the middle of my stomach, and it bothered me. My clothes didn't fit properly. I had lower back pain when I would bend over because my abdominals were not able to support me, and I wanted it changed. I wanted my stomach back, and I knew that we weren't having any more kids. So I told my husband, I really think I'm going to need a tummy tuck in order to fix this problem. I had a deep-seated belief that the only way to resolve loose skin was to cut it off. That diet and exercise was not going to cut it. The loose skin was always going to be there. Now, mind you, when I was making these decisions, I was not aware of the universal laws at this point. I did not understand then what I understand now. But I can not honestly tell you that I would have had any different response had I known what I know now, because I had such a deep-seated belief about the way my body had responded to pregnancy and what I needed in order to get it back to the way that I wanted it to be. It may not have made any difference, even though I know now and I believe that we can have, be, and do anything we want, should we know how to work the energy in order to work that in our favor. So, is it possible to change your body, even with something like loose skin, and make it tight again with just your thoughts and your beliefs and how you feel? Yes, I believe that's true. Could I have done that? I don't know, because I went a different route, but I went with my path of least resistance in order to achieve the condition that I wanted to live so that I could have a more satisfying life experience. But I think it's important for you to know that I did this for myself. I didn't do this for anybody else. I did this for me. And a lot of times when people have plastic surgery, they tend to believe that they're doing that because of the way that they want to be viewed by other people. And I'm sure there are people that feel that way. But for me, it was about me and how I was looking at my body, how I felt about it, and how I wanted to feel about it, and what I needed to change so that I could feel that satisfaction about it. There's other things that play into this. I wanted to feel good in my clothes. I wanted to feel good in a bathing suit. And yes, I also want to feel good when my husband's looking at me and when we're being intimate. But that's about me feeling that way. It's not about how he's viewing me. I know that his view of me is his. And do I think that he was going to toss me to the side because I had this pooch on my stomach? No, it didn't matter to him. In fact, my insecurity about it was something that bothered him because I wasn't as open with him. I wasn't as in alignment. I wasn't my true self because I had this focus on this negativity in my body. It was the experience of being with me in that state that was unsettling for him, not my stomach. He didn't care. He didn't care about that. But he did want me to feel better about myself so that I could feel better when I was with him. Hey guys, I have some big news. I've decided to offer you guys some exciting interaction opportunities. Have you guys been over to the website, drwilliamspodcast.com? If you have, you may have noticed a scheduling calendar that wasn't there before. I am going to be offering some one-on-one sessions. I'm also going to be doing some interviews. So if you think you might be interested in having a one-on-one co-creation or private personal alignment session with me, you can go to the calendar and you can schedule a free 15-minute consult. Or if you want to be a guest on the show, maybe you are an expert in mental health or law of attraction, or you just have some life experience with either of those things and you want to share your story, you can schedule a free 30-minute pre-interview call to be a guest on the show. Because I told you guys, I want you guys to feel like this is your show too. So here is your chance to shine. I am so eager to offer my audience a multifaceted listening experience, rich with your unique perspective on life. We all have something to contribute. Let's hear what you have to say. And now, back to the episode. Actually, at one point, I went in for a second opinion. I've had 3 revision surgeries, and they all were for different things. But at one point, I wanted a second opinion. Shortly after my surgery, when I first took the bandages off and looked at myself in the mirror, I cried, and they were not tears of joy. I was so disheartened because my belly button was not in the center of my abdomen. It was off to the left, and I was heartbroken. I am a perfectionist. I am detail-oriented. And I had had this conversation with my plastic surgeon the day of my surgery. And I said, hey, I want you to know that it is important to me that I get good results. I chose you to do the surgery because we had a consultation. You told me that you are a perfectionist. I found comfort in that, knowing that you would be detail-oriented as I am. So you can imagine my disappointment when I did the unveiling and I'm looking at myself for the first time and it is not perfect. And I'm not even talking about the bruising and the blood and all of the stuff that's normal at that point where you're expecting to need some time before those things get better. This is the placement of my navel it belongs in the middle, and it's not in the middle anymore. And it was very hard for me. I had a whole lot of anxiety about it, and I had gone in and talked to my doctor about it, and he tried to explain the reasoning in several different ways, which made it so it was not his fault. And I'm not saying I blame him. I've had to work through a lot of emotions about this, and it's been a long time. This has been a whole year of me feeling uncomfortable about my results leading up to this last revision surgery. So he told me that it was my misalignment of my spine, which I had followed up with my chiropractor to find out if that was a possibility, and he squashed that and said that no, I had a straight spine. That was not the reason why my belly button looked off. And my plastic surgeon also said that it was that way before the surgery. And I feel like I would have noticed that. That's something that I was very focused on, right? I'm looking at my belly every day and hating it and analyzing it. I think I would have noticed if my belly button was off. And I know that it wasn't that way from birth. I mean, all through my teenage years, I wore midriff shirts. I was very confident about my belly, the way it looked. My belly button was in the middle of my abdomen my whole life. And I've never heard of pregnancy changing that. So the only thing I could conclude was that this surgery was the reason why my belly button was no longer in the middle of my abdomen. So because of this conflict with my plastic surgeon, I decided to get a second opinion. And I had to get a referral, so I went to a primary care provider, and they were able to refer me to another plastic surgeon. But because of the nature of the consult, I had to pay out of pocket for it. But I went and I had this consultation, and I showed this new doctor what I was concerned about. He was also disappointing because he was very standoffish and cold. He was not very supportive or caring of my feelings and my displeasure and dissatisfaction in my results. I said, "Do you see how my belly button is off to the left?" And he was like, "Well, yeah, but no one's going to notice that." And that didn't set well with me because I don't care what other people notice. I notice it. I'm doing this for me. I want it in the middle. I want to feel good about looking at my own stomach. This has never been about anyone else and what they think of me. This is only about me and my satisfaction with my body image. And that has been the most frustrating part. I want it to be a certain way, and it has been a struggle. I have been in the lake of resistance as far as my belly has been concerned for over a year now. And this last surgery was the surgery that I opted for to move my belly button over. And it required a lot of the same procedures as the very first surgery, which was one of the hardest things I've ever done. So if that doesn't tell you how bad I wanted it, it should. And now I am sitting here and really working through my emotions about it, my focus on it, my thoughts about it, because I'm still not completely satisfied with the results. And I'm trying to allow for the time to heal before I judge, but it's very difficult to do. And the reason is because our bodies are something that we are faced with every day. We can't separate ourselves from our bodies. So when it comes to manifesting things that have to do with our bodies, we have to do it differently than if it were money or a career or some other kind of object that you want to manifest in your life. For those things, it's beneficial to not think about it at all and focus on all the other things you do appreciate that you do have. And then in turn, that thing will manifest through allowing. But when it comes to your body, it's really, really difficult to take yourself out of that negative judgment when you're looking at yourself on a daily basis. So I did some creative work going into this revision surgery because I do have a better knowledge base now about vibration and energy and how to create things in my own reality. I did some creative writing. I have been specific about what I want. I was able to reach for the feelings of having it. I even wrote out a list of positive affirmations and expectations, and I asked my anesthesiologist to read them to me while I was under. And I was feeling really good going into this revision surgery. But I had a lot of resistance there. And I had a lot of resistance present before going into my initial surgery. There was a lot of hate associated with my body. I had not been loving on my body for a very long time, ever since I gave birth to my second son. That resistance has momentum, and it's going to keep moving until you're able to work through it and clear it out. Well, I hadn't been doing the energy work. I didn't know about it. And it's gotten a little bit easier this past year. I have changed subtle things about how I'm viewing myself, but I think that a lot of my anticipation was focused on this revision surgery, which I expected to resolve the issue that I was having. And now here I sit, feeling pretty good and aware of some residual resistance that's there, but mostly feeling good about things. And I know that how I think and how I feel are directly correlated with the results I will get once I am fully recovered. So there's some things that I have been choosing to focus on about my body that I do appreciate, and trying to keep my mind off the alignment of my belly button, because that's where the resistance is. But one thing that's really, really good is the sensation in my belly has been coming back. And that's something that I didn't have much of for the whole year since my original surgery. And that was something that I had written about while doing the creative work, getting ready for this revision, was there were some things that I wanted this surgery to rectify. And that was one of them, was that the physical sensation on my skin would return. And it's been very sensitive. I can feel way more than I did before the surgery. So I'm so appreciative of that. It was a weird feeling not having physical sensation on my belly, and it was something that I wanted to return. So I've been trying to really focus on that and have good feelings about that, which I do, and not so much on my anxiety about the placement of my belly button being perfect. I don't think that we need to be judgmental of people who are taking the plastic surgery route in order to change their body into a condition that they want to be experiencing. It's their satisfaction. And maybe surgery is their path of least resistance. It was mine. And I never thought I was going to be somebody who had plastic surgery. I remember actually saying that when I was around 22, saying like, well, I'm never going to have work done. I'm just going to let my body age the way that it ages. Well, things change, and your desires change, and your beliefs change. And my desire in this situation and my belief led me down my path of having surgery in order to change a condition so that I could feel more satisfied. What I wish I had done was focused on the energy work before having the surgery, because I think I would have had better results the first time around. There was so much resistance there. There was so much contrast there that some of that manifested in my results, and I could have done that differently. But I don't think this is a shameful thing. Who cares if somebody wants to change their body in that way? If they're doing it for themselves. If they are doing it for themselves, then who cares? If they are doing it out of alignment with themselves, that's okay. Nobody has to be perfect all the time. And society can just keep its judgments to itself. There's one more thing I want to say about this particular surgery and society. There are a lot of reasons why people will choose to have the surgery they choose to have. And those reasons are their own. And they don't need to be justified by anyone else. I know someone else who had an abdominoplasty, a different one than I had. And I remember seeing her post about her reasons for choosing to have the surgery and that it was covered under her insurance. And that kind of came across as some kind of justification that it was okay for her to do it. Because, she had these reasons. She had gained a lot of weight and then lost a lot of weight. So she had a lot of loose skin. And that's why insurance decided to cover it for her. And it made her feel better putting that out there to the world. Given that insurance was covering it, it felt validated. But mine was not covered under insurance. Insurance will not cover an abdominoplasty for pregnancy, which makes no sense to me because they will if you have gained an excessive amount of weight and then lost it. Why is that covered, but the birth of a human being is not? Makes no sense to me. But then I could go and argue and say, well, yeah, insurance didn't cover it for me, but I don't have any shame about this because my baby weighed a lot. I had a really big baby, so that justifies it for me. No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what someone's reason is. If they're doing it for themselves, that's all that matters. If this is something they want to experience in their life, let it be okay. Don't shame somebody for that. Well, this episode turned out to be completely different than what I had intended it to be. I think I'm going to have to do a separate episode organized in the way that I intended for this one. But I ended up just talking to you guys. I didn't even follow my notes at all. All the journaling I did beforehand didn't come through in this episode. I just wanted to tell you about my life experience and why I did it. And that I don't care who may think that it was right or wrong. And it was hard. And I went through it because I wanted it bad enough. And I still don't feel 100% satisfied with it. And that's because of how I went into it. And if I can share that story with you and help you to do that differently yourself, then I think that's great. Do the energy work first. Clear your vibration first. Get into that good feeling place before you go to seek that conditional change, and you will be happy with your results.
That concludes this episode, but if you don't want to wait for the next episode to come out, I have more for you at drwilliamspodcast.com. You can learn more about me and my journey to podcasting, find all the ways to connect with me on social media, and there's a button to subscribe so you're the first to know what's new and upcoming. You also can shoot me an email at hello@drwilliamspodcast.com. You are so special to me, and your support does not go unnoticed. I want to support you too. This podcast is my outlet for growth because when you teach something, you hold yourself accountable and apply the information in life. But the inspiration for these episodes comes in a variety of ways, and one of those is through you. I want you to feel like this is your show too. So send me a message and let me know which episode is your favorite and why. And tell me if there's a topic you'd want to hear me talk about. Your feedback applies to so many people, and your suggestion could change someone's life for the better. The best way to do this is by subscribing to the show and leaving a review through your favorite podcast platform. I really listen to you guys, and this dialogue feeds my soul. You say that you're a fan of me, but truth be told, I am a fan of yours. Everything is working out for each of us, and we're all in this together.